Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be playing the Veeth part of Wild Arms V, the Veeth Vanguard, when we'll be covering up until Carol rejoins the party, which is not what we did. That was last week. I forgot to update that line. We'll be covering up until we enter the new continent. That's what we're doing. But before we get to all of that, how was everyone's week?
You could have just blamed that on me throwing you off.
I could have.
With my shenanigans.
I could have, but
it was a good shenanigan.
It is now canon that I don't update my notes every week.
Yeah.
Or on Podcastia, I double update my notes every week, so my numbers are always one more than they should be.
Yes. I watched the trailer for Pokemon Concierge. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it made me cry because of the Maria Takeuchi song.
Oh, it looks really good. I love the texturing on a lot of the Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Psyduck looks like felt.
Yes.
I still haven't watched it. I saw that you linked it in the chat, and I was like, "Oh, I need to check that out. I'm interested in that." But by looking at it, I had cleared the notification, so it was gone forever for me.
I know that feeling.
Anything else happen for you this week, Bernard?
I played a lot over the past 2 days of Super Mario RPG.
The remake?
Yes, it's so good. It's
Yay!
so good. I was really surprised to find that most of the Ted Woolsey script is intact.
Oh.
Like, they didn't do a retranslation. They changed a few things here and there. Princess Peach is not Princess Toadstool.
Mm-hmm.
Mac is for some reason Clay Morton, which I was like, are they going to name all the Smithy gang after Koopalings? But no, that's not a thing. So I don't know why they did that.
Weird.
But yeah, it's so good. The graphics are so good. At the beginning, it was wildly too easy playing on the normal difficulty because of they changed up how things work, added new attacks and stuff that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it easier, but they didn't add a harder difficulty. So it's just the same difficulty, but with added stuff that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it really easy at the beginning. It's gotten better now.
Okay.
It is fun and engaging, but I still think it would have been cool if they had added a harder difficulty option as well as the easier option that they did add.
Yeah, because while this is baby's first RPG, we were babies a long time ago. So we're good at RPG now. They could have made it hard.
Speaking of adaptations / remakes of things, this morning I saw the first 3 episodes of the new Scott Pilgrim series. I am going to join in a surprise move for me. I'm going to join the I'm not going to spoil anything about this because I do think it just needs to be experienced, especially if you're any kind of Scott Pilgrim fan. But as someone who has complicated but mostly positive feelings about the movie and still kind of complicated but extremely positive feelings about the comic series, this show is incredible so far. I love it. It might be my favorite tactic I've seen in an adaptation in a long time, maybe ever. Wow. It's really good. So that's your thing on Super RPG. I felt like that was a good segue to that. And then the other thing, and again, it's something happening just today, it's on my mind. So I believe I've mentioned once or twice before, I'm currently running I run 2 tabletop RPG campaigns in a week. One of them is a Masks game. Masks is a very fun tabletop RPG powered by the Apocalypse system in which you play as young young superheroes who are still figuring themselves out and such. I think it's a really fascinating system mechanically. The one I'm running, I decided to throw out all of the custom lore and original setting that they do for masks, and instead just set it in my version of the DC universe. Earlier today, somehow, I don't even remember exactly how, me and my players got on the subject of what would the fandom be like for this if this was a comic series. What would the fandom be like, and what would they be shipping? And I've had to create a whole thread for this now, where they're just discussing it and talking about the different ship possibilities and AUs and just all the things the fans would be doing. And I just genuinely, it's so silly and I love it. I love being able to do a thing like this with players and to be playing a kind of game where that's a thing you can talk about and just imagine like, oh yeah, this PC, just everyone, so many fanfic writers and people in the fandom are just constantly mischaracterizing her and doing the whole, just writing her to just be a complete bitch sort of thing. Yeah, that's been fun.
Awesome. Speaking of tabletop, I ran a session of Pathfinder this week, and I want to give a DM tip to anyone who wants to do Pathfinder. When everyone tells you to trust the system, even if you want to be nicer to your players and make it easier on them. I gave them an NPC party member because there are 3 people running through beginner box, which is for 4 people, and so I gave them an NPC party member who took a lot of the good things in the fight, and my characters didn't have a very good time. We're very understanding that like I have no idea what I'm doing. My D&D 5 impulses don't work in Pathfinder 2, and I'm trying to figure those out. So they weren't like mad about it, but it definitely was oh yeah, I totally just was playing Pathfinder by myself because I was the NPCs and also all of the monsters, and therefore it kind of really sucked. So trust the system, don't make it easier. The game will be fine. But
what is the most... Oh, go ahead, Bernard.
If a total party kill happens, that's funny.
Oh, that does remind me. So I'll get back to you in a second, Trish. I haven't forgotten that you had a question. So the Pathfinder remaster came out 3 days ago, and when it came out, there was a misprint where the dying rules accidentally were like 3 times as hard. Because they were like, oh, when you die, you also add this other value to your fails. So it's like, oh, you die once. If you come back up, you die a second time. You're basically boned, where it used to be you could go a yo-yo like 4 or 5 times. And so everyone was like, oh my god, it got super hard. So I asked my party afterwards. I was like, so with the remaster coming out, dying is really scary. Do you want to do the old version? And I kind of explained the difference between the two, and we actually decided that this is not lasers and feelings. Creating these characters was like a months-long process. So we're going to use permanent debuffs. If you get all the way to when you would have died, we're going to roll my critical hit dice and be like, okay, you rolled leg, so because you quote unquote died, you have a bum leg now, and so you -1 on your dexterity score or whatever. And we're going to go that way, which is cool and fun. But what were you about to ask? What were you about to ask, Trish?
Oh, I was just going to ask, what's like the maximum number? What is the limit you've hit of how many NPCs you have run in a scene? And I'm not talking about like in a combat encounter. I mean in like a role-playing scene at the same time.
So this group's first session, they all Firefly episode 1. They all ended up on the ship that turned out to be a pirate ship. They didn't know, and I played the captain, the first mate, the cook, the navigator, the person who the bad guy in episode 1 of Firefly. That guy that was trying to steal River. He was there as well. I played him, and I woven through that were flashbacks for one of the characters, and I played like 3 people in that. So I was talking to myself about 8 times.
I don't know which one of these is more. I'd have to actively like think through and count it. But my two ties, I think, are I ran a Monster of the Week game a while ago that actually did a. Fun thing about Monster of the Week is generally you tend to level up really fast in that game, so it's really hard to do a long running campaign. So it had I was like, let's do 13 sessions or so, and that ended up being perfect length. And in one session, it was a Thanksgiving session where one of the characters' mom and dad showed up to do a Thanksgiving dinner with the whole party, and everyone was allowed to invite any NPCs they wanted. And so it was just like I'm playing both of these parents, and then this person's partner, and then these other characters, and then this character, and then I had a character show up as a surprise. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
And similarly, with that Masks game, because it's DC, the party are a incarnation of Titans West. They're a new version of Titans West is a thing that's happened in the comics off and on multiple times. It usually never works.
Mm-hmm.
There was a fun side session because we were missing someone where they all got invited to a slumber party. There was an all-girl slumber party for all of the Titans through every generation of Titans and all side teams and stuff. And so there was like 20 NPCs there. I wasn't always doing all of them, but it was a lot of jumping from NPC to NPC to NPC to NPC, doing all of these different interactions. It was a lot to keep track of, but it was also incredibly fun.
Yeah. I love doing stuff like that. But so Pathfinder, the beginner box is basically the tutorial when you ask anybody like, oh, hey, I want to get into Pathfinder. What should I do? And they're like, run the beginner box. But I didn't want to do the same thing twice. I'm still doing the same thing twice for my two different groups, but I am flavoring them different to like tie in to actually be like the first arc of their stories. Just they happen to have very similar puzzles and encounters throughout it. And both teams are about 1 or 2 sessions away from finally finishing the beginner's box, and then we can actually go and tell real stories, and I'm very excited for that. Other than that, Scarlett had her first drop-off meeting for Girl Scouts, so I dropped her off, and then I couldn't see her for 2 hours, and she wasn't next to a parent for the first time in a very long time, and that was a lot. But it was great. She's a big girl, and it makes me happy. That's right. The newborn that disrupted our episode 1 way back in the day is now big enough to go to parties by herself.
Incredible.
You know what else is incredible? Wild Arms V, the V Vanguard. So let's listen to some good ass cowboy music, and then we'll start discussing the game. So when we last left our heroes, they had wasted their blank check buying literal poison for a sick child. So now they must make
They didn't even try going to a pharmacy.
No.
They weren't even looking for the special Zop syndrome stuff. They were looking for Tylenol at that point.
They were. Wow, we a rich. The rich people owe us a favor. We can ask for literally anything we want. Let's ask for some Tylenol.
So we goofed it. So now we have to go make amends and head to the Baskar's shrine to ask them for help. Once inside the shrine, we are met with a locked door that needs a password. The question says, when our homeworld, Filgaia, is in danger, a hero will arise bearing 2 guns to lead all life into a new world. What is the name of that hero? Dean is like, it can't be me. I have 2 arms. I don't know what guns are. This isn't Wild Guns V. This is Wild Arms V. I have no idea what this is. And Rebecca's like, put in your own name just to see what happens or whatever. And then it works and it opens. everyone instantly is like, weird, this ancient hero must also have been named Dean, because it's definitely not this idiot. Surely it's someone else's idiot, not ours. Rebecca wonders if the Baskars really have something that could cure Pastel, and they're kind of, again, just wandering in sight unseen, and she wonders if they're wasting any time. Carol says that the Baskars have been studying the interaction between Filgaia and humans, so they probably have something that'll help. The party's like, how did you get from point A to point B? And she was like, well, the last time I was here, they told me all about Filgaian history, meteorology, geology, and sociology. The party stops, and they're really impressed that this person knows 4 barely medium-sized words, and they're all like, wow, you must be super duper smart. You said history, meteorology, geology, and sociology. Carol continues that around 12,000 years ago, in the age of lost technology, Filgaia decayed almost to the point of death, leaving behind all of that lost technology. So all the shrines and golems and shit are 12,000 years old. The ancient Filgaians were smart and had great technology, but their unchecked capitalist greed polluted the planet and nearly wiped out all of civilization, so they forsook their technology and started over. Now, with the much simpler level of technology that the world has been using for 12,000 years, the world has begun to recover, but it still has a long way to go. She says that it's thought that Zop syndrome is tied to the planet's decay, and for a long time it was a Varuni-only sickness, but now it's almost entirely humans that have it, so the Baskars are investigating why that changed, and that's why they probably have medicine. She skipped out a lot of steps where she was like, oh, they're studying it, so definitely they have medicine, but she filled us in, and now we're all on the same page. This dungeon gives us our second tool bullet, and it shoots fireballs. Our minds instantly flash back to all of the burned out torches in front of obvious secrets in the previous shrines, and then it flashes to the slow movement speed and high encounter rate, and we decide not to go check it out. Partway in, for literally no reason, there's actually no words in the cutscene that happens beforehand. We have a boss fight against Gigamantis.
There's so many unnecessary boss fights in this dungeon,
but they're fun.
This definitely was a. Our writer is a novelist, and we need to do novel backstory here, but we haven't had any interesting fights in like 2 hours of game. So a spooky light comes out of the wall, and it's Gigamantis, and you fight it. Gigamantis isn't very hard, but I did wipe the first time because this battle system rules, and you can't just check out and mash A, even on things that aren't that hard. He has 2 mooks with him that can cast disease on a hex, which will nullify the healing there. So if you're like me and stupid and not careful, you'll get wrecked, and then you will only have one person, like one turn before the monsters have a bunch of turns, and you can't heal in the hex because everybody is there, and it sucks. So the bosses are getting cool and interesting and doing even more cool stuff with this awesome battle system. After the fight, Avril mentions that this place also seems to be rejecting her, like the last place, but it's not as bad as last time. Probably because this time she doesn't have to go it alone, but instead has her partners and her friends there. Rebecca asks Carol if the professor is indeed the large gentleman with a mustache, and she confirms that it is. Dean is like, oh, that's the guy that stole the Mirror of DeSoto. And Carol's like, not this shit again. He's always stealing shit and calling it research. Rebecca's like, how can you put up with his whole, everything? And Carol says that ever since she was discarded by her parents, the professor has taken care of her, so he's like a father figure to her. Rebecca's like, what do you mean discarded? And she's like, actually, they abused me, so I ran away. But the real problem isn't my parents, it's the colonizers who stole my family's land because they have some ancient religious bullshit tied to it, so they get their stronger firepower and slaughter all of those of us who resist. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
She said that in tough situations like that, it's hard to have room to think about others, so she doesn't blame her parents for being irritable and upset and mistreating her, but it was just too much for her to bear, so she had to run away. She apologizes for trauma dumping, and she says that she never thought that she would be able to open up to anyone besides the professor, but it's probably because we remind her of the professor a lot. Rebecca is like, yeah, Dean's an idiot, just like the professor is. And Carol says, no, I mean, Avril reminds me of him. And the party's like, weird. So then after a room with several hundred OSHA violations, one right after the other, Dean asks why Carol...
Wait, you're saying it's unsafe for a workplace to have floating cubes over an abyss?
Yeah. Like, and the spiral staircase over the abyss doesn't have handrails or nothing. The party walks in, they're like, wow, this is dangerous. I hope we don't fall in. And then because the camera's not that great in this game, I fell in immediately.
I was going through part of this dungeon and I shot a fireball at a switch and a little narrow path appeared over a gap, and I was like, oh wow, I just got to walk across this narrow path. What an interesting challenge. And I get to the next one, I shoot it, there's a little path, and I fell off that path. Then I felt like a fool for thinking that way.
Yeah.
Your Bobo's a fool.
Dean asks Carol why that she thinks it's because Filgaia is dying again that Pastel got sick. He's never even heard that Filgaia was dying again or that there's any sickness going around. Greg says, you lived in a remote town and you never crossed over the hill near your house. Of course you haven't heard about any bullshit. The rest of us have been hearing rumors about it, but the Varuni is keeping it hush-hush. Dean is like, why would they hide it from everyone? It affects the whole planet. And Carol is like, because if they withhold the information, it'll help them keep their position of power and prevent a revolt. They say that, or she says that it's because they're digging up golems and lost technology and using them all the time. That's probably causing the death of Filgaia #2. And they don't want to stop having their cool shiny toys that they can lord over the humans. But so they're not going to let people know that it's their fault that the planet will die in a few years. The team is like, wait, a few years? And Carol is like, yeah, the professor said we got like 3 years before we all die, but it's okay. He's going to do something to stop it. The party then remembers him saying something about his research being super important and can't be delayed a single second, as they stole the mirror from him and delayed his research for a lot more than a second. Hopefully, saving Chuck didn't bring upon a climate apocalypse. After several more OSHA violations and another cutsceneless boss fight, Dean asks Carol, hey, if the Baskars are Varuni, are they going to be assholes? Damn, why are the Varuni always assholes? Rebecca's like, well, they're nobility. That's why they're assholes. Rich people are assholes. And Dean's like, well, why do they get to be nobles instead of humans? And Carol is like, well, they have 12,000 years more technology advancement than us. And Dean is like, what's so special about technology? Why does that make them so great? Just because they have their iPods and their mini discs and their Pokemon Goes? Why does that make them so cool? And Greg's like, they have weapons, numbnuts. Golem, arms, all of that shit is specifically designed to kill us. He's like, oh,
I really love how much of this dungeon is just like, oh, this is the way things work. And Dean going, here's some idealistic stuff, wondering why things could be that way. And other characters going, Dean, here's a practical explanation of the actual things happening. They have to usually, classism and capitalism and yada, yada, yada. And he's just like, But what I enjoy is that occasionally there's also a fourth step of Dean pushing, because if they're doing it in a way of like, and that's just the way things are, that's just inevitability. And Dean just being like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I think it's bullshit. And I'm like, Dean, good on you. I like it. Love the attitude.
He's so good throughout all of these scenes. So then we do a little Lost Woods puzzle that has a trick ending where you don't walk through any of the doors, you walk through a wall, which is cute.
Which was pretty cute, yeah. I was especially impressed how they make the flame really clearly not be going to any of the doors.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I'm just looking at it like, okay, what? So do I go near the one that's close to?
Uh-huh. I failed at that part of the thing like 3 or 4 times until I'm like, wait, is it going to be in this actual corner? And then my button pops up that says examine, and I'm like, god damn it, cuties. So after they get through the Lost Wood puzzles, they come into a room with a huge computer in it, and they stumble across someone's flash drive with their history project on it, and they decide to watch the PowerPoint. The viewing devices from ancient times, but it's been used to record findings by the Baskars and other people from nowadays, and it's one of these more recent people who have made the PowerPoint. It is very, very long, but the basic spark notes are long ago, people had lots of tech and they made golems to be a manual labor force. But their avarice made them ignore the fact that the pollution was killing the planet and it brought the planets to its knees. Two factions emerged in the discussions to save the planet, but neither side would budge, and a compromise couldn't be reached. The PowerPoint cuts out in a couple of places where they would have named these groups so that it could be a twist at the end for drama's sake. The TF system was used, but it resulted in a wave of dimensional turbulence, and so it was disabled. The radicals declared that, well, if we can't use the TF system, all hope is lost, and they got on their colony ships to escape Filgaia, leaving the moderates behind. The moderates reversed course enough to save the planet by building facilities such as this one that absorb energy from Filgaians and return it to the planet. No one picks up on that one because they're lost in all of the anime proper nouns like we are. I didn't notice it while I was playing, but the quote-unquote good Varuni are harvesting humans' life force and pumping it back into the earth. So that's going to come up probably.
Oh, but they're the moderates. Everyone knows when you have two extreme points of view, it's the people in the middle who are clearly in the moral right. Everyone that's just how it works, Sam. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah. So it goes on to say that in addition to these facilities, there are the 6 original mediums, which no one has found out who made them or how, but they also tie humanity to the planet. And you're like, wow, if there's only 6 of these and they're very, very important, why do we have 5 of them? And most of them have been given to us by random idiots on the street. This is bizarre. And so it was with that the people of Filgaia separated. The humans who were left behind on the planet and the Varuni who took to the stars to spend 12,000 years in space. Our idiots are like, oh my god, humans and Varuni are the same species? And Carol is like, this isn't news. Most people knew this. You guys are, and I cannot stress this enough, from an isolated bumpkin town in bumfuck nowhere. Of course you don't know these things.
I mean, I thought Carol knew it and was surprised because she's been hanging around with a Varuni for a while. I feel like most people probably still don't know this, but it is still like this is a fun reframing of this whole conflict and stuff. It's like, so all the rich people left.
Yeah.
The rich people left and fucked off in space for 12,000 years to the point where they're basically not even humans anymore.
Mm-hmm. So
I hate them.
Avril says that watching this PowerPoint seems to have lifted a fog in her mind, but she can't grab onto anything in particular, but more things are starting to fire synapses in her brain. Suddenly the floor that everyone's on rises up to the entrance of the place where the Baskars are like, why did you go the long way and go around the pit of doom? You could have taken the elevator down to the computer room. Stupid. But then they catch themselves because they're like, oh my god, your majesty. And Avril's like, me? And they're like, obviously you're joking. Of course it's you. Why have you come here? Rebecca's like, oh, we need a cure for Zop syndrome. And they're like, right away, anything for you, your majesty. The team is like, oh, cool. Our main quest is to find out stuff about Avril, and these people obviously know her. Let's remember to ask questions before we leave and never come back, because this is an important thing for us to follow up on. It's literally our stated goal of the game. So the Beskars bring the medicine, and the team is like, all right, how do we repay you? And they're like, no need. It is our honor to accommodate her majesty. And Rebecca's like, okay, well, do you know about Johnny Appleseed? And they're like, again with the jokes. Obviously, this is something that we know, and we're unaware that you have amnesia. And surely if you just explained that, we would answer you and you would know what you're looking for.
Someone suggests we should tell them, and Avril's like, no, we shouldn't.
Yeah. It's like, no, we should leave and go help Pastel, and then say we have no leads on where to find information on Johnny Appleseed and leave to another continent.
To be fair, I get the feeling that if they revealed Avril has no memories and Either she isn't who they think she is, or she, as someone
It's
not
a risky
having any
maneuver.
memories, yes, I get why she doesn't want to reveal that to them.
Mm.
Like they're being accommodating because they're like, oh, this is a person that, you know, this is your majesty, this is this person who we respect, this is the ice queen or whatever. And if she's like, actually, here's my current situation, there's a possibility they will take that information and go, oh, well, fuck you then, or oh, we're capturing you, or
Yeah.
oh, you know, there's a lot of ways that can play out.
Yeah, absolutely. But I still think it's hilarious how
Oh, it is very funny.
we're like, we have no leads, instead of, okay, the Beskars know something. How can we get it from them? They're like, no one knows about Johnny Appleseed here. Literally, they say all of our leads have dried up, so we have nothing better to do than follow Carol to the next continent.
Also, again, to be fair to them, these Beskar motherfuckers are annoying.
They are.
I hate them.
I don't
I don't-
want to continue talking to them.
Also, I really liked the point Greg actually made with that, where he was just like, I've always found it's better to just go pick up a new, try to squeeze a new fruit instead of trying to just completely drain one you've already been using before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a weird metaphor, but I was like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, man. That makes sense.
Yeah. So our team leaves and they head back to Mythosmere and give Pastel the medicine. Meanwhile, we see the Captain Varuni in the spaceship, and he says some bullshit about how if the radicals activate Jotunheim as well as the TF system, Filgaia itself will be doomed, which is even worse than the plan that he's okay with, which is just getting rid of all the humans. But then again, they didn't bring the TF system up to full power immediately, so maybe there's something going on there. Meanwhile, back at the TV station, Persephone and Duo say some bullshit about how if Avril is truly the Ice Queen, they should keep an eye on her. Duo asks why Persephone didn't just capture her when she had the chance. Persephone says, well, why didn't you? And they both agree that acting without proof would be foolish. They must wait and see if fate favors either Johnny Appleseed or the Ice Queen. Persephone mentions that she's loyal to her fellow Sentinels and not to Volsung because he's crazier than a motherfucker. Nightburn is also there, and Duo says that they don't like him and the, quote, cloak of lies he wears. Nightburn continues to loudly say villain shit and say that he doesn't care if he's unpopular as long as he gets to kill the entire human race, and one day he'll be happy to tell Duo the whole story. Meanwhile, Volsung is sitting on his throne talking to Feridun and Persephone, who was late because she was in her other clandestine meeting. She says that the TF system might not be as useful as they thought because a girl in Mythosmere seems to have recovered from its effects. Volsung says that means the Baskars have gotten involved. Is it Johnny Appleseed? And Persephone says that she hasn't been able to confirm or deny it. Volsung says that the Baskars should have stayed neutral instead of getting involved. Persephone says that the Baskars are just trying to return Filgaia to a livable state, and this research isn't in direct opposition to us, so we shouldn't be placing sanctions on them just yet.
I love how she phrases it as placing sanctions when what he had been implying before was, let's just fucking annihilate them.
Yes.
Which, honestly, usually when you talk about geopolitics and placing sanctions, is usually what that actually does end up meaning.
Yeah. Feridun says that since they haven't been able to bring the TF system to full power, he agrees that they shouldn't end their other possibilities prematurely. But it is likely Johnny Appleseed is involved, so he wants to bring Kardakea and investigate area W4361 and B2428, and Volsung agrees. I'm gonna guess that that's where we're going, and they're going to be the next Varuni that we interact with, as Persephone was the last one. Persephone asks if Volsung truly wishes to reactivate the TF system because of its significant dangers and the fact that the last time it was turned on, it caused dimensional turbulence and was so bad that our ancestors left the whole planet. The system is supposed to make the planet fit for Varuni, but it could destroy the planet in the process. Volsung says that there's no alternative and they must do what they can to preserve themselves. Finally, back with our idiots, they have helped Pastel, and now they have no leads on Johnny Appleseed, and they must continue to an entire other continent to continue the search. Carol says that she's headed to Honey's Day, which is in the southern continent, so we might as well head there too. Avril is like, but if we leave, Dean has to give up on golem hunting. And Dean is like, I decided I don't want to be a golem cop anymore. I just want to be a golem enthusiast. I've seen so many different things on my travels. I want to keep traveling, see more of the world, go and find golems for the fun of it instead of because I'm a cop. The party is like, cool, do we have to steal train tickets again? And Carol's like, no, there's a tunnel cut through the mountains and we can use that to get there. So we head to that tunnel, and now we can test out our new tool, the detector. It's basically just search, but for dungeons, like we do on the world map. It can reveal hidden things and alert you to the decorations that have items in them in case you are tired of just walking in the room and blowing everything up to find 10 gold. I'm not. So, yeah, I'll do the detector. It'll be like,
you'll do the pew pew.
It's like, you only have to do this one on the right. And I'm like, according to the Let's Play that I wrote my notes on, it does tell you the difference between mimics and chests, though. When I was jotting down things, I was like, it sucks that it doesn't. Mimics will have a red triangle, and a regular chest will have a blue triangle. So if you're using the detector, you can tell if it's a mimic or not. The mimic fights aren't too hard, and they give a lot of cool shit, so you should probably just fight the mimics anyways. So this dungeon actually has some of the first like dungeoneering puzzles in the game, and I really like it. There's very little shoot the only switch in the room or follow the floating trail of Gela to the one thing that's real, and a lot more of like, oh, we're going to give you a hint in room A that will solve the puzzle in room D, and you have to remember it and piece everything together in your mind, and it's pretty cool. There are a lot of cute scenes of the team becoming closer friends and a few boss fights that kicked my ass because I ran out of revive fruits and I didn't want to run all the way back to fucking Lila Bell to purchase some. Goddamn no. I was just going to keep retrying until I would beat the battles. It all culminates in a scene where Dean is upset at class disparity again, and he says that he wishes that humans and Varuni would just get along. Greg again mentions the huge wall between humans and Varuni and that only Nightburn has been able to cross it. Dean is like, has he really crossed it though? I mean, it did look like the Varuni were treating him as an equal, but I don't know. Something seems fishy there. Greg is like, I know he was your hero and you're kind of bummed about that, but you don't have to follow in his footsteps, you know. You could find your own way over the wall. Avril asks, are there no cases of the reverse of a Varuni crossing to the human side? Carol says that there was a case of a Varuni and a human falling in love and raising a child, but their life wasn't a pleasant one. Smash cut to a cutscene in black and white of a child that is half human, half Varuni, and his life not being a pleasant one. It looks like it's probably Volsung, but the cutscene is in black and white, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is to hide the difference between gray and green hair, and that this kid is the unyet named Varuni captain that we see so much. They're doing a lot of tricky things of not naming this character. So that's my pull, is that this is a false flag.
I think everything about
go ahead.
I think everything about the filmmaking is very clearly shouting this is Volsung.
I would agree. I'm on team that's actually Volsung.
I figure it
maybe they are playing three-dimensional chess like you're thinking, but I don't think so.
Yeah, like especially in a second when it smash cuts back to Volsung, it probably is Volsung.
Especially because Volsung talks about how he was reminiscing.
Yeah, so I think it might be, but I also think it might be a little wiggle room for a twist. We are only a quarter through this game, and anything can happen from here. It would be weird if Sephiroth was Sephiroth the whole time. So we see both the Varuni and the humans mistreat him, his mother and his father. It's implied that his father died, so he has to go live with the humans with his mom. And he says often, and people say to him, that he's going to build a bridge between the Varuni and the humans, and that he has an important life ahead of him. And the cutscene ends with him traveling to one of the places like we saw in the ancient PowerPoint, the ones that we now know suck humans life force away from them. And he goes there and he's like, I don't know if I can do this, blah, 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 blah. And then a mysterious black fog rolls in as a voice booms, I have waited long for this day, for the arrival of one who can at last fulfill my desires. I am one who will give you power. You are the only one who can fathom my despair. The time has come. Take my power. The fog envelops the kid, and the cutscene ends and fades in on Volsung in his throne room. Freydun tells Volsung that the human party is nearing Honey's Day, which Volsung seems to know something about, but he doesn't share it with the class. Freydun also says that Duo is on their tail. What will await our party in Honey's Day? Find out next week on another Rootin' Tootin' episode of Gunsmoke. But for now, let's listen to some more music, and then we'll talk about our memorable moments. This game good.
This game is good. I was honestly truly not expecting the Varuni used to be humans shit. I just thought we're going with just, Star Trek aliens. They just look exactly like humans, sort of thing. And it's like, no, it's just weird rich people. Just terrible rich people. Yeah, I don't know. The political commentary aspect of this game is surprisingly good and holding up very well on the whole. I think there was too many boss fights.
Yeah.
And also too many cutaways to when there are 3 in a row to hear some Varuni doing some scheming. I was like, you could have split these up. You could have put some of these earlier, guys. What? Why?
I've gotten to the point where when I see a non-standard wipe, I'm just like, oh my god.
And the worst part about it is none of them are like poorly written or completely uninteresting. We just don't have any of the payoffs whatsoever. And they do things like, oh, they must be in area W4268.
Yes. Here's the thing. You say none of them are poorly written. I'm going to say the God, is it Volsung? Volsung. The Volsung ones, I don't think I've liked a single Volsung scene. This man sucks all the charisma out of a room by entering it. His design is cool-ish, but otherwise, I'm just left like, listen, please give me any other Varuni, anyone other than this guy, please. Just these dudes have given medicine to a sick child. Let's kill them. They've always been neutral. Subordinates raise hand tentatively. Considering they're actively saving the planet, and like if our thing doesn't go off according to plan, or even if it does, we'll probably need them to not die. And he's like, are you saying I shouldn't kill them then? Oh, okay.
I really enjoy this game a lot. Like I said, the puzzles this week were starting to get good.
Yeah.
I really like the utter stupidity of these are the tunnels that we cut through the mountains to make it easy for us to travel without needing a train to go from one to the other. You have to literally shimmy up a pole and jump over a 50-foot gate to get through it. This is how we carry goods from town to town.
Yeah.
They didn't say that it's there to make it easier to get through. It could be for some American Gladiator shit, American Ninja Warrior, or whatever it's called.
We put in this dungeon so we could do cool. Duo's gonna come by later and film people trying to do this.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Also, the sheer resentment between Duo and Nightburn was very fun. I really enjoyed that because it's just like, and then just Persephone being like, you two are acting like you hate each other, and you probably do, but when it comes down to it, you two are on the same side. And I was just like, yeah, you're both. I don't know. It just immediately made me think of like people who have very different political beliefs and are like will disagree on 99% of things, and yet they're both, on the side of fucking capitalism and the status quo, and will give up any of their principles in order to fight for the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sam got to make a wild prediction that maybe the guy who's clearly Volsung is actually the captain.
It's weird that the captain is the only major Varuni player that hasn't been named. Like it's weird. There's something going on there, and it feels like this could probably be it. But what's your wild accusation?
I think Duo is going to have a face turn.
Ooh, I like it. Here's my wild prediction. I think that next episode there is going to be a scene in which Rebecca has feelings that involve Dean and or Avril.
Man, she held it together pretty good this week. She didn't even scrawl in her journal once.
She didn't scrawl her journal a single time. But I have to guess best memorable moments. There is the one scene where, oh god, I can't remember the exact specifics of how the dialogue goes because I was playing it a little close to the line this time. Mm-hmm. But there's a bit where there's a thing of just like Avril and Rebecca talking about how glad they are to know the other, and like just very strong, just like, yeah, we're such good friends. And I'm like, yeah, you definitely are.
Some people might even say you were roommates.
Gal pals. Bosom buddies.
So Rebecca doesn't scrawl in her journal, but she does 2 different times when Carol is like, oh, here's some very valuable information that'll help us deal with his technology in this room. And Dean is like, wow, thanks. I'm glad you're here. And she's like, is he into little girls? And it's like, no, his friend helped him. And he said, thank you. Do you not know what please and thank you are, Rebecca?
Yeah, that also happened in the episode where Carol was introduced, and I'm like, that's weird. And now it's a bit of a running gag, and I'm like, that's weird.
That's weird.
That's very weird. Also, speaking of Rebecca, there's a point where after they help the sick kid, and the kid is like, I want to grow up to be just like you someday, Rebecca. And Rebecca's like, oh, that's cute. You should set your sights higher. I'm not that cool, actually. And I was like, Rebecca, what the fuck are you talking about? Most, if not all of this party would be dead without you.
Mm-hmm. Not to
you
mention
are the coolest person here.
Not to mention, you're literally talking to the person who wanting to see you do cool flippy shit again is the only reason they're still alive. They were holding on to life to watch you do flippy shit. And you're like, no, I'm not actually that cool. It's fine. Yeah, we mentioned it a little earlier, but I really liked all the boss fights this week. I wish they would have been important instead of just
random monsters.
Yeah, like
there was one where they were just standing around talking, and they were like, we're gonna get through, we're gonna do this, and then Greg's like, and first we're gonna have to get through the roadblock, and it just like cuts, and just apparently there the whole time has been this giant monster right in front of them, and it's just there.
It's fantastic.
Also, okay, we kind of skipped over the recap, but what was up with that thing about there's being a puzzle on a door that the answer was Dean? I'm like, they said there were some weird dimensional issues with the TF system. Is this some timey-wimey stuff? Is there a prophecy? Or is it just Dean reincarnation? I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it would have been fun if Rebecca had not suggested entering the name Dean, and the player just had to, because obviously that's what you do. I think it would have been funny if you just have to do it, and then maybe like they're like, whoa, what'd you enter? And he's like, Dean, and they're like, why did you enter that? He's like, I don't know.
That just makes me think of the the classic New Vegas skill check, where if you have high luck or extremely low intelligence, you can randomly guess the password to a room. Ice cream.
Also, our Soul Crystal boss fights have leveled up and are much bigger and technically harder, but still not hard. Same with the mimics; they've also leveled up to level 30.
Yeah, I had some trouble with mimics and some trouble with bosses, but it's fun. This is an engaging battle system.
It is. I have completely sold on this weird, funky little battle system, and I wish I could see. I wish there was more games that did something like this. This is neat.
If you want to completely check out of all of the cutscenes, Wild Arms 4 was the first time they tried this.
No thanks. No thanks. If anyone ever suggests a game to me and says, listen, you should try this, just completely ignore every cutscene and any character or story content, I go, no thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good, actually.
I want to...
I'd rather do the opposite.
Yeah, I want to play through it to see it for myself if it is truly bad, but I need to finish 1, replay 2, and replay 3 before, and maybe replay the remake of 1 and the PSP game before I have a lot of Wild Arms to exhaust before I'm like, okay, let's deal with the Xenogears Disc 2 of the Wild Arms franchise.
Any other memorable moments? Any more memes?
There's some really fucking good music this week. I think we've heard it before, but the
soundtrack's good.
The dungeon music when you are going to the new continent is really fucking good. And then we only hear it briefly this week, but when you get to the new continent, the overworld music there is really good.
The dungeon music's title is The Road to Tomorrow Follows Behind You.
Yes.
I love the song titles on this freaking soundtrack. Like, there's so many times when I'm getting music for the podcast or whatever, and I'm like, I think it was with Brave Story New Traveler. I was like, all right, let's find it. And the songs are literally called BGM 1, BGM 2, BGM 3, and Wild Arms going as far in the opposite direction as you possibly could is fantastic.
It's a pretty good track title. I mean, it's no Melody's Plan to Get Super Ripped, but
but yeah, I really enjoyed this week. We gameplay wise, we didn't do much. We did 2 dungeons, but there was so much plot squeezed into this game. We were talking earlier in the host chat that this is probably going to be like a 15 episode game, which is fine because SLRPG was pretty short. Yeah. So we have some space to take it up, but this is a very dense 44-hour game. It is not 20 hour or 30 hours of game, 15 hours of cutscene. It is like 30 hours of cutscene, 10 hours of game. But yeah, I think that will do it for the week. If you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations help us cover the cost of running the show and making it better and better. Setting up a recurring monthly donation will also get you some additional benefits. If you donate $1 more a month, you get access to our bonus feed, where this week we have a Podcastia episode going up. We're continuing our way through Tales of Destiny Director's Cut. We actually recorded 2 episodes since the last time that we did it, so I don't remember what happened 2 episodes ago, but the game continues to take its sweet time to do anything and just let us hang out with characters, which is very nice. You can also, if you donate $1 or more a month, you can access our polls to decide what game we play next on the main feed. If you donate $5 or more a month, we'll also shout out your name at the end of every episode, just like this. Shoutouts to Cerebral Wind, It's Claire Time, Frosthair, Dragonslayer 19, Floris, Kaldron, Freddy Rodriguez, AA Ron 524, and JFro Prime. And then if you love us so much that you want to donate $20 or more a month, You can also get me to say a sentence of your choosing, either to plug something or just to make me say something. So shout outs to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout outs to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, reviews for people like us by people like us. Shout outs to Vimk, who wants you to play Legend of Legaia for the PS1. If enough people do it, they will relieve me of my misery of coming up with some other cool way to get you to say play Legend of Legaia at the end of every episode. And then shout outs to Carr, who is a dentist, so he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Goodbye.